In this video, you will discover how to get clear on who to target with your podcast to grow fast and monetize. So this is a Road to Show episode that was taken from our podcast while your podcast isn't growing. Every other Monday, myself to the left and my business partner, Tygo Shade, to the right, will be invited podcaster on in order to educate, order their show, and give them live feedback in order to give you and them personalized guidance on how to best grow their podcast. So for context, Tiffany struggles to target her podcast effectively, trying to serve both entrepreneurs and athletes. Her podcast lacks a unique angle to help us stand out in a super competitive market, and this leads to her experiencing slow growth, low engagement, and a lack of clarity around how to best attract and retain new listeners. In this episode, you will discover why specificity is key for attracting and retaining the right audience you want to reach with your podcast, the hidden consequence of not having a unique value proposition that 99% of podcasters totally overlook, and finally, how to set yourself apart if you are in a crowded market, making growth, engagement, and monetization 10 times easier. Let's dive straight in. But yeah, and then I guess from that, for yourself, when it comes to those two avatars, whether it's the entrepreneur or the athlete, which do you feel like you're best equipped to serve?
Oh, well, that's a no-brainer. That'd be the athlete.
And why is that?
Because I've been one myself, and I know what it's like, and I know what it takes.
Yeah. I'm super curious to know, Tiffany. So we started a conversation by saying athletes or entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to go with the blend of the two rather than picking one initially?
Oh, I think too. That's because of the journey that I've been on. As a young 20-something, I was an athlete, pursuing a professional tennis career and so on. And then over time, I became a businesswoman, and I've built various businesses in tennis, sports skills, and golf coaching and all of that kind of thing. And I think because I've got experience in both from an athletic perspective and also from a business perspective, and I know what it's like, and I know that there's a lot of analogies from sport and business very similar from a mindset perspective. That's where I was like going in that, because I was like, yep, I can help business women because I understand what it's like to build a business from nothing, and I've done it 3 times and I'm about to do it for the 4th time. And then also I know what it's like to be an athlete, training your guts out and wanting to pursue a big dream and lacking belief and will it happen even though I put all this work into it. What are the habits that I'll need in order to make my dream come true, so to speak? So that's sort of that's why I was trying to blend the two, because that the passion that I have from a female entrepreneur point of view, and I understand what you need to have in place from a mindset perspective, and also from an athlete perspective, because I had big dreams as a kid and also as my 20s playing tennis and so on, of things that were lacking in my mindset that I didn't have at the time, knowing a lot of things now versus then. But yeah, that's where the passion was, and that's why I felt like Ambition Habits was going to be a great thing moving forward for me, because I've had experience in both and I wanted to see if I could blend the two. That was where it was coming from.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. I've got two questions and then a final little piece.
Okay.
How many other podcasts you think are out there? So we've agreed that the best person for you to target will be the audience you're best equipped to serve, which would be athletes. Great, calm, right? How many other podcasts do you believe are out there about athletes and mindset? Lots, right?
There's quite a few out there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Competitive. It's going to be very competitive, right? Very competitive. Yeah. And that shouldn't necessarily put you off, by the way. I'm not saying it should put you off. No. But now it comes to the element of like, okay, well, what's your positioning? What's your unique selling point to this audience, to this market? How do we make sure that when a new listener discovers your show, they will pick you versus everyone else? Because there's going to be so many other massive shows out there. And this is another step that most podcasts are totally ignored as a foundational piece, which is, how do I position myself to be highly attractive and to feel like something new and something different to the audience I want to reach, knowing fully well I've got my competitors, other sharks surrounding me? How do I stand out? So I think what I've got on my mind is, I feel like you've got this piece where you've got this unique story of going from athlete to entrepreneurship. You want to blend the two together and say the podcast is for both parties, but that's not actually blending the two together. That's actually separating the two in a sense. You're saying it's for either, it's for this and it's for this, but it's not for both. But how can we bridge the gap? How can we make it so that you can still further position yourself as a unique host for the audience you want to serve, which is athletes. And I think a great blend would actually be helping athletes who want to transition into becoming entrepreneurship, or helping athletes who want to start their own business, right? Something along those lines. Again, I think you probably still could get a bit more specific, but at least we have a transformation that your podcast is offering athletes. So athletes who are looking to become ambitious entrepreneurs, who've got no clue where to start, but know they can apply themselves with the skill, with the mindset they've already built from being an athlete. I think that's a clearer transformation. And also, it positions you as something uniquely different as your own value proposition to the market, where there's going to be far less competitors in that space versus just the athletes or just the entrepreneurship. Again, I could be way off, but is what I'm saying making sense? And Tug, I'll have to get your thoughts as well on that, mate.
My thoughts is I did not expect you to go there. That's a very interesting way of combining the two. I mean, is there enough entrepreneur athletes that want to become female athletes that are currently stepping into entrepreneurship?
Great question. You tell us, Steph.
I don't know. That's a good question for sure. I'm sure I'm not the only one in the world that's doing it. So I'm sure there's more out there. It sounds very interesting though, because it's reaching out to those specific women who need that guidance. Sounds very attractive to me from my perspective, because if someone was saying that to, if I listened to a podcast and that was being said to me, I'd go, yep, I'm in. And that has happened to me in the past with specific things that I've listened to, other podcasts I've listened to that have really spoken to me. And I'm like, yep, I'll do your program and everything. I'm ready to take the credit card out and so on.
Right, because it's so personalized to you, right? So
yeah,
if there's
absolutely.
other people like you looking for something like what you're providing, then you're going to have that exact same effect. So no, that's really good. I was, before Anthony took that turn, I was thinking, okay, so we're doing 3 times a week, focusing like daily mindset and habits for athletes. I was thinking, okay, this is kind of coming together. But stepping it into athletes becoming entrepreneurs is super targeted to the point where you are going to be the only show probably that does that. And like you said, there are people that want to step into that. So that is how you truly stand out, right? And truly become completely bingeable to the right people.
Yeah, that's amazing actually. Yeah, much deeper than where I was headed to. I knew that I was missing some specificity, but I really wasn't sure how to move forward with it.
Tiffany, your podcast needs to be positioned as the perfect thing for the right person. When you're able to position yourself as something truly unique and attractive, and your audience, athletes who are trying to transition into entrepreneurship, when there's a clear transformation, a before and after, where your podcast is positioned as the bridge that bridges the gap from where they are right now, an athlete, and where they want to become an entrepreneur, and your podcast content and podcast is speaking directly to them, you're positioned as the solution. You're helping them get to the life they've always dreamed of. And that 10x is the chance that they discover your show, become a listener, keep coming back for more. And guess what? If you have a program that's specifically made, a coaching program on offer, a membership, a community, sponsorship, anything when it comes to monetization, that becomes 10 times more effective because there's a clear transformation, a clear targeting, a unique value proposition. And again, these are the foundational pieces that most podcasters, even if they're 100 episodes deep, they forget this piece and they get stuck in a slow and steady growth because they're just kind of bouncing around everywhere without a clear direction, without a clear value proposition. But once you have this, you can see how everything's like a dynamo effect. Everything starts to fall into place because when you don't have this clarity at this point when it comes to your targeting, guess what? Your share name is off. Guess what? Your subtitle for your show is off. Guess what? Your description isn't speaking to anyone specifically. Guess what? Your content strategy is off. Guess what? You're talking about the wrong pain points. Guess what? Your podcast SEO is off because you don't know who to target. Guess what? When you're promoting on social media, it's not going to be as effective because you're not speaking to a specific outcome that people want, a specific pain point that they're currently going through. And guess what? When you get high-profile guests onto your podcast, they're not going to stick around for very long. So when you get high-profile guests onto your podcast and they bring in their audience, if they bring in their audience won't stick around because your audience targeting isn't clear because you don't have a unique selling point. And guess what? When you guest and collaborate with other people on their audience and their shows, and you're guessing and featuring on their podcast, when people listen to you and they might like you, they might love you actually, but then they check out your podcast and they're not clear on who it's for, why they should listen, and your unique proposition. Everything stems from these foundational core pieces that most podcasters totally overlook. And that's what I want to leave you with, because I think honestly, everything kind of falls into place once you have these pieces in place. But oftentimes you need outside perspective. You have this knowledge already in your mind, right? You have to just draw it out of you and having that outside perspective. And this is kind of what we do with clients literally every single day. There's so many little roadblocks that people don't know that's in front of them, and they can go one way. And it's like, actually, that's not going to be great because it's going to be way too competitive. Okay, great. We could do the blend, but actually, is there a market for it? But these are the things that you have to be working through on a consistent basis and actually thinking and strategizing. But again, when you don't have the time, when it's just you, how the hell are you going to get to the right conclusion and make massive leaps forward? We gave you a mini audit, a small mini audit that was for free, right? A small mini audit for free. Just breaking down your description. You changed your name because of that audit, and you doubled your monthly download. Think about if you had these pieces in place 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, right? And that's really want to kind of leave you with, encourage you, like, you can do this, you have got this. It's just knowing what steps to take and then just being relentless, having that mindset, building those daily habits of checking on the podcast, of doing what you need to do and moving yourself and your show forward. Awesome, there you have it. So what are the takeaways? Number one, get crystal clear on who your show is for, the transformation you're promising to your audience. Then ask yourself, how can I differentiate my podcast, your podcast, from other shows out there in your space? Again, if it's super competitive, there's going to be so much more important, because when you do this, it makes everything else 10 times easier. Ignoring this only leads to a time suck podcast that you love but doesn't grow, engage your audience, or monetize, which of course sucks, and I do not want that for you. Look, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. You've been absolutely fantastic. My name is Anthony, and I'll catch you in the next episode.